we go.
Woohoo.
Yeah, so I thought with it being Mental Health Awareness Week this week, it would be a good time to discuss something along these lines. So yeah, there's been a few studies done linking diet, the effects on the body and mental health, but obviously there's still a lot of research to do. Some of it's really interesting. Obviously, it's all interesting, but they've managed to ascertain that certain foods, such as sort of what they consider a Mediterranean diet, so there are a lot of. Have I written that down? So yeah, where's that number one? So that's got a lot of fruit, vegetables, nuts, and legumes. So things like chickpeas and lentils. They eat a bit of so moderate amount of poultry, eggs, and dairy, and quite a little red meat. So that Mediterranean diet has been linked with a lower risk of depression, which is quite interesting. And then there's effects of certain foods that and dietary patterns on blood sugar, the immune system, and your gut microbiome, and that can also have an effect on the relationship between food and your mental health. So depression and anxiety are obviously the most common mental health problems. But there is obviously I keep saying obviously there is what they call reverse causality. So things like you and I might find that contradict, the scientific studies. They call that reverse causality. So that would contradict the popular opinion. So things like comfort food, stress-related appetite loss, they, obviously, if you're eating comfort food, you feel, good, don't you? You get that nice, I feel happy when I've eaten this food.
Yeah, is it the endorphin releasing?
Yeah.
Is it endorphins for food? And
I believe so.
What's the other one? Serotonin.
Serotonin, yeah. So the happy hormones.
The happy hormones. But then they only last for so long, because when you stop the comfort eating, then you go, oh, I put on 5 pounds and I feel crap.
Yes. Yeah. When you're not feeling great, if you're stressed, you might not want to eat very much. So, sometimes that causes weight loss as well, but obviously not in a good way, because you're not eating and it's not good for you.
It's commonly known as the boyfriend diet, isn't it?
What, sorry?
Commonly known as the boyfriend diet.
Oh, is it?
You have a bad relationship and you lose a stone in a month.
Oh yes, I've done that. I've done that. So the link between nutrition and long-term mental illness. You've also got certain barriers like environmental factors, effects of medication, so that might cause bloating or suppress your appetite, or you might just be basically unable to stop eating because you're constantly hungry, fueled by this medication. And also there's a financial barrier as well, so if your mental health means you can't work, you're obviously then restricted by what you can consume, really.
Definitely.
And
So would you prefer questions at the end or as you go?
Don't mind, however.
Because I know some people's train of thought, or my train of thought gets lost if people keep interrupting.
All right, I've got like 4 pages of notes here, so.
So obviously, like the Mediterranean diet, we know that's a health. It's more or less all round known as a healthy diet. And things. But in terms of, there are quite a few other diet things that would people report, like a lot better mental health, clarity, losing the brain fog, and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So when you look at things, and I've only seen a few bits on this, it can be more about what you cut out eating than what you're eating.
Yes.
So yeah, I know that if I can eat things like fruit and honey, but if I'm eating processed sugars, a lot of what I'd say heavily processed junk food sort of thing, makes you feel good at the time, but health wise it's really bad for me, and then my mental health, my clarity and this brain fog comes back, and I can forget words mid-sentence sometimes if I eat enough sugar as well. So yeah, I think because I think it's the food that I don't eat that helps more than the food that I do eat.
I would agree with that. I mean, I know for various health reasons, there's a lot of stuff that I have to limit how much I eat, because otherwise I'll have terrible side effects of varying names, basically. And then when I've eaten too much because I like that stuff, I've eaten too much of it, I then have these horrible side effects, and then I feel awful mentally because why have I done this to myself? I know I shouldn't be doing this, and I mentally beat myself up over it, as well as having the horrible physical side effects as well. So it's doubly unpleasant.
I think that's one of the biggest things that you come across, and I think why we created this was because so many people go through that cycle. And you've got this nutritionist at the top of it who lives this perfect looking life and never addresses these sort of issues. So I think the fact that we can be a bit real about this is nice.
I think so. I mean, you get a lot of nutrition experts who, like you say, they give off this image of, being the perfection of health and exactly eating perfectly all the time and very good at telling people what to eat.
Yeah, well, stuffing their face with jam donuts.
Whether they do that in private is another matter entirely. No, I'm very much in touch with my flaws in terms of my eating habits, and I know I can do better. But
but it's all about doing the best at the time, isn't it?
So the foods that you might be referring to, is it sort of particularly refined, sort of the heavy sugars, the refined carbs? So those are things that they've listed as sort of sugar, white bread, wheat flour, and those, along with a few others, and they can increase a risk of diabetes and obesity. Too much refined carbohydrates. And another bit that they've, those are very high GI foods, so glycemic index, excuse me, and they might have a negative effect on psychological well-being. And there's studies, sort of longitudinal ones, that have, I'm trying to think of the words now, established, that's the word, an association between a higher GI diet and depression symptoms, even in sort of control settings, which is interesting as well. So, they've fed healthy people with no history of mental health problems in like a lab setting, and after a certain amount of time these people have reported having symptoms of depression, which is quite but it's even in a clinical setting, that's quite, well, it just shows that it is linked to diet, doesn't it? Definitely. And another bit on this that they've said, that the high GI load and depression symptoms, it could be linked between kind of blood sugar spikes. So if you are regularly eating loads of refined sugar and then you get the sugar crash, and this is rinse and repeat, your poor body and your poor brain is just thinking, oh, I can't cope with this. I thought that was very interesting. And there's an inflammatory response to foods with high GI rating, and that backs up the link to depression, mental health, and immune activation.
Yep. Okay.
Also, low blood sugar can they've linked to mood disorders as well. So it's
Okay.
all it's all there.
I think what I've seen that kind of links all that together is that sorry, I'm letting the dogs out, so I'm all over the place. Because where I've been looking into bits and pieces, you've got it all comes back to the gut microbiome,
Bio, yeah,
that's the one. And I can't remember. I keep thinking it's called the endometrial layer, but it's not. It's something similar to that.
Yes, I can't think of the name myself off the top of my head. I'm sure it's.
But essentially, yeah, and they're calling it leaky gut syndrome,
yes.
And that leads to more inflammation issues, more autoimmune issues.
Yeah.
And now they're tying everything into gut health.
Yeah.
Which is like hugely big because it's not really talked about. You don't hear about it.
No.
Somebody might say take some prebiotics and some probiotics, but apart from that,
no.
The importance of gut health isn't really out there.
Yeah.
And it affects obesity, it affects diabetes, mental health, everything's kind of rolled into one, really.
Yeah, I mean, leaky gut, it's you've been eating stuff that's aggravated your intestines for so long, either through intolerance, allergies, or it's just not, your body's not processing it properly, basically.
Yeah.
And so it erodes the gut lining wall, and then all this waste that shouldn't be going back into your system is basically managing to leak through, and it makes you quite ill. Yeah. So for the recording, that's in a nutshell what leaky gut syndrome is, and it's very unpleasant. It can be fixed, and fortunately the gut does repair quite quickly.
Yeah, it does. Again, it's getting the nutritious foods in. It's more about stopping eating the food that is causing it than it is about eating something that's going to help.
Absolutely.
Yes,
I completely agree.
I've listened to quite a few podcasts recently, and most of them are on gut health or cholesterol, and all around this sort of side of things. And
it is really interesting, and it's something that when I'm reading just the stuff I read at the moment, it's all on nutrition and the microbiome. And I've got the next book is about the gut brain connection.
Okay,
so I'm looking forward to that. But it's stuff I am researching a lot in my own way. But all these, and they more funding needs to be available for these kind of studies.
Because I'd love to, like you suggested, the Health Sciences Academy, and I want to do those courses,
Yeah.
but for a hobby, that it's not going to be my career. For a hobby,
No.
it's just not
No, absolutely.
feasible to do this sort of thing. And then you look at courses on Facebook for 20 quid,
Yeah.
and they're not going to teach you anything.
No, they're not.
So yeah.
No. No, I
But
mean, I
yeah.
can't afford any more Health Science Academy courses at the moment, but
Yeah.
the content in them is quite hefty. So
Yeah,
you are
they're
getting the
phenomenal, I
knowledge there,
think.
which is something, but you know, it's a
So
cost.
in terms of like, I'm a sugar addict,
Yeah,
and
me
I've
too.
worked out how, I think most people are, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it has been like a 5-year journey. Sorry, the dog's going crazy in the background.
Right.
It's been like a 5-year journey trying to figure out what works for me to beat those cravings and eat
Yeah.
what I need to eat. And while I've made drastic changes through that, but what would be a way that somebody who wants to start making small changes, because not everybody wants to just make big, if they've got
Oh
families and
no,
stuff, it's not,
no.
yeah. So
And it's not
what are
sustainable
the
for everybody, is it?
what would be the sort of like the starting blocks for making changes and reducing those sugar? And it is an addiction, like
It
it's meant
is.
to activate the same part of the brain as crack does. So
Yeah. And
it's
I think
nobody's fault
cheese
that we're sugar addicted.
cheese does that as well. I think there is something in
Yeah.
cheese that is genuinely addictive, because
Oh yeah, definitely.
I know lots of people who claim to be addicted to cheese, myself included.
Yeah.
But as far as the sugar, I would maybe suggest if there is, I mean, I'm not necessarily a big fan of kind of necessarily sugar-free or low sugar things, because they often come with their um, own health problems further down the line. Although the link between artificial sweetener and cancer has been dispelled, that's not a thing. It was a thing in a clinical trial in mice, but that's not
Yeah.
translated into humans. However,
I think one of the things with the artificial sweeteners is a lot of people who choose them are because they want to avoid blood sugar spikes.
yes,
And maltodextrin, which is the space of most sweeteners,
Yeah.
causes just as bad blood sugar spikes as regular sugar.
yeah,
And yeah, so there are some natural alternatives, I think, that are good.
yes.
When they're spliced with maltodextrin, when you buy it, stevia from Lidl is 98% maltodextrin.
Is it really? I've had
It is.
stevia once, and I personally couldn't get on with the taste. I think it's, I mean, you can taste that it's plant-based.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's fine, but I think if I'd have started off on that and then not had real sugar, I'd probably be okay.
Yeah, it's making that adjustment, isn't it?
It is.
Stevia, I can use a tiny bit, but it's too sweet.
Yeah.
You only have to use a tiny little bit.
Yeah.
But you have to find like a pure source, which is quite difficult.
Definitely.
But yeah.
Yeah, I would
But yeah.
say, you know, maybe instead of going for something quite heavy on the refined carbs, so you know, instead of a slice of cake or something, and you know, cake has its place, don't get me wrong, I love
Oh yeah,
cake,
definitely.
and I'm not saying cut it out completely, but if you're trying to limit the amount of refined sugar, I'd maybe go for some fruit or something, and you know, you can have that with honey and yogurt as well if it's not quite, because those are better sources of sugar. So it's sort of making sort of smarter choices, and I can kind of give you some more ideas in some more posts for sort of some better swaps sort of thing. So you're not cutting it out, but you're maybe making smarter choices for your body.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I always talk about priorities, because
Yeah.
most of because I've realised that changing my diet has improved my health, my priority most of the time is what I eat, is not what other people would choose to eat. But if it's somebody's birthday, my priority that day is their birthday. So I'll eat cake and I'll eat everything else. And yeah, I think making the right priorities, but when you're on your own or when you're at home, I think 80% of the time that should be a health-based priority rather than then
No,
we will.
I agree. I mean, at home very often, I mean, because I've got a real sweet tooth. If I'm sort of, if I've bought Mikey some little, like his favourite little puddings, that won't be something I'll have as well. He'll have like a little sponge pudding with some ice cream. That's his sort of favourite sweet thing. But I'll usually, if he's having that, I'll have, I don't know, some frozen fruit with, sometimes on its own, but you know, even little meringue nest, they're not so
Yeah.
bad. You know, you think,
Yeah.
that's pure, that's almost pure sugar, which
Yeah, but it's about
is.
10 grams of. They're so light. There's
Yeah.
not a lot actually in
No,
it.
that's actually quite a sensible choice. You know,
Mm.
whereas if I was sat at home with mum and dad on a Sunday, I might have like a massive bowl of crumble with custard, which
Oh,
yeah,
that's a good
that's, you know, that, you know,
But
eating with them
that's
that
food
day
for the
is,
soul, and I think every now and again you need that sort of
oh,
thing,
of
isn't it?
course you do, yeah. But you know, I can't, as much as I love that, I can't, it's not sustainable for me to have that every night.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, if I wasn't looking after myself, I would quite happily just, you know,
Yeah.
have the heavy puddings all the time. And
Oh, definitely. I think my go-to in the evening is I like grapes, I like bananas with honey on. I have dates with butter in,
oh really?
because I crave the flavour and the texture of pastries.
Oh, okay.
And if I have dates with a bit of butter in,
Yeah.
sounds really weird, but to me that fixes my pastry craving. It's got like this,
Right.
it's got this caramelly toffee taste to it,
Yeah.
and then the texture has got that, like when you squidge a croissant and you've got
Yes.
that sort of like
Yeah.
texture. Yeah, it
Yeah,
fixes all
I can see why when you're saying, you know, the dates with butter, it might sound a little strange, but I can see why that would be your choice for.
Yeah.
Getting
But
that
dates are really calorific, so I only have like one or two.
yeah.
So yeah.
No, definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, I've taken you completely off your train of thought there as well. Sorry.
It's all right. Let's see. So these talk very briefly about the hormones. So things like cortisol, which is a stress hormone, adrenaline, your growth hormone, which as in adults, it regulates the fat, muscle, tissue, and bone, metabolism, the action of insulin, and the blood sugar levels. So all of those cause changes in anxiety, hunger, and irritability when your blood sugar level is too low, basically. So that is why people get really hangry, myself included. But that's really the science behind it. Basically, your blood sugars drop too low, and all of these hormones are basically telling you to be stressed and fight things because you're hungry. That's why I found that quite.
The only time Sedge and I ever really have any kind of tip, it's like, should we go and get some food and then think about this?
Yeah, when I, you know, Mikey said he knows when I say I'm hungry, I've got about 20 minutes before I start being horrible. So I need to be fed quick. Definitely.
It's definitely a thing.
Yeah. So the foods that are associated with inflammation in the body are trans fats and refined carbs, which makes quite a lot of sense. And there's, sorry, sniffing all this.
Sorry, can you, because I have an idea, but I still don't know completely. Your trans fats, what do they look like in terms of food? Just for anyone who's listening who doesn't.
Yeah, of course. I meant to write all these down. I knew it came up in that book recently. So let's have a look. So we've got things like cakes, cookies and pies, frozen pizza, a lot of fried food, microwave popcorn, refrigerated dough. There's loads. So it's a lot of fried fast foods.
Yeah.
There was kind of specific oils mentioned in this book I was reading, but and I think one of those might even be coconut oil, which surprises me, but I thought that was quite a weird one. Double check that for you. I'm adding more notes for you later.
Yeah, I think some of the thing with coconut oil is more to do with the temperature you cook it with or something, rather than, I think it's meant to be a low temperature fat rather than a high temperature fat. But,
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I'm surprised it's on that list.
Yeah, and it wasn't on the list that I've just looked at now, but it was in the book, and and I think it was because it was classed as a trans fat that I was really thinking, oh crikey, I didn't, because it's always, you know, marketed as like a healthy alternative.
Yeah.
But the science behind it basically says that it's not quite as healthy as the marketing people would have you believe.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I noticed when so people were choosing olive oil and avocado oil and things over seed oils.
Yeah.
They're finding a lot of avocado and olive oil are actually spliced with seed oils. There is actually an avocado oil, it's an American-based one, so that surprised me. But it is 100% soybean oil, not avocado. Well, but it's advertised. I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know, but it's one of the, you find them in the UK as well. If you find a cheaper brand of one of these things, they'll have seed oils in as a base, and then you put some of the good stuff in to make you think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with the different ratings of olive oils. You know, you get like the extra virgin, like super pure ones, but then as the purity goes down, they are often, like say, mixed with something else, whether it's another grade of olive oil or whether it's a seed oil or something instead. Obviously, it would depend on, but that's they can only call it like extra virgin or, you know, whatever it is, you know, if it's absolutely 100%. But
I think someone told me a long time, and I've kind of gone by it with olive oil. The more expensive the olive oil is, the more they want to look after it. It should be in a dark green or brown bottle, preferably glass.
Yeah.
So if you're finding it in a clear bottle, it's probably not a good quality oil.
No.
Because they wouldn't waste it like that.
No, and that's the same. I mean, I know this is about nutrition, but that's the same with essential oils. So basically, any oil you can basically take from it. If you want to preserve the integrity and the purity of it, keep it in dark glass bottle to keep it, you know, more potent for longer.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
This is face on camera. I just realized that I've got my double chin face, and then I've got my nice face.
I've still got a Christmas ornament up.
Woo! It's Christmas. Hey, I'm not run by a calendar. It's Christmas every day. Let's go back to this Mediterranean diet. They've linked that to having reduced inflammation markers. A high calorie, high saturated fat diet stimulates the immune system to kind of go into overdrive. And a Western diet, which is assumed what we, not so much here, but I think it's very much an American, you know, your stereotypical American diet, can have negative effect on brain health, including cognitive decline and dysfunctions in hippocampus. So it's
it's very, you know, very important to be mindful of
Yeah.
what you're taking in, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I've reduced my inflammation a hell of a lot, but mine is a higher fat diet.
Yeah, and that
But
works for you.
again, it's cutting out the things that were causing it a lot more than what I'm eating. It's just that what
Yes.
I'm eating makes me not crave those other things.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that's really good. Yeah, it is sometimes, like I say, you know, often in the first place to think about cutting out the things that are causing the problems.
Yeah.
And then you can try and fix what's, you can try and fix, you know.
Say hi to the people.
Hello. Oh.
Good boy. Right, off you go.
You can try and fix anything else kind of after that. But a lot of those problems will fix by themselves after the removal of the problem foods from the diet.
Yeah, definitely. But no, I mean, yeah, I'm quite happy with how things are going with me, and it's not for everybody, but everybody's going to be slightly different.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is just those figuring out those things that cause things rather than adding stuff that might be healthier. It's no point eating the same diet and then adding a supplement thinking that's going to help you.
No, and I would much rather try and get the nutrition from real food. And you know, supplements are exactly that. They are useful if you are like not able to eat enough calories, if you're, you know, quite deficient in certain things that you're not getting in your diet, then they definitely have a place. But the majority of people don't need meal replacement shakes. Not on the regular. Definitely not. You know, there's a lot, you know, there's a lot of people who don't need to take vitamin D supplements, for instance, because the sunshine, I mean, okay, we don't get a huge amount here, but we've not been doing too badly. But the majority of people don't need certain vitamin supplements because their body is generally okay at making it and processing, you know, like the sunlight to get decent levels. I mean, if you do have kind of immune system problems, then C and D are particularly useful to kind of just help yourself, top yourself up a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the problems is we don't get enough checkups and blood tests.
No, don't.
Because they flag up so many things.
Yeah.
But nobody really gets it until, like, when I switched over my diet, I wanted to get some blood tests to see where I was at.
Yeah.
And it's taken me 7 weeks to get a blood test. I've got it next week. And I've changed so much since then.
Yeah.
That it's not going to show what I was. And
No.
it's really frustrating. But if people had regular checkups, if it just became standard, I think we would end up reducing the amount of physical and mental illness just by catching things in the blood tests. Like once a year even, because some people will go years and years without a checkup.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think prevention is definitely better than a cure.
Absolutely.
But again, people go to their doctors and get given pills, but doctors aren't nutritionists. They probably do what, like 2 days of nutrition?
Yeah, 23 hours they do in their 7-year degree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I phoned up my doctor and said I was morbidly obese, this is my BMI, I'm pretty sure I'm pre-diabetic. He went, well, we can prescribe you a Weight Watchers plan. I was like, really? Just, you know nothing? Please stop.
And they are meant to keep up to date with, but a lot of them, they've got so much other stuff to worry about. And I suppose if they don't, if nutrition isn't their interest, they're not, you know, they're not going to spend their, you know, CPD hours on that, are they? They're going to do it on stuff that they are working on regularly.
Well,
and
yeah,
they're-
they're in the market of giving medication.
Yeah.
And while there are a few really genuine doctors that help you first, most of them are on the payroll for medication, which
You're right.
really makes it hard. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's how they get. It's not how they're all funded, but I mean, my brother used to be a pharmaceutical rep, so he'd go round and he'd entice doctors to use their brand, and they'd get benefits from it. So I can only assume that most doctors do that.
I'd imagine so.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd much rather try and fix my body myself than, go to the doctor and get some pills that, will probably stop working after a week because you develop a tolerance to them.
Yeah.
And then you get some weird side effects as well. So I'd rather just, not
Definitely.
have them personally.
Yeah. And then you get people like us or me that just spends all my time researching stuff.
I do a lot of research these days.
Yeah,
It's a curious mind, isn't it?
definitely.
Yeah,
Sorry, I've distracted you from
All
your
right.
notes again.
it's fine. And I was most of the way through it, to be honest.
Oh, that's fair.
The only thing I really haven't said is that specific nutritional components, so things like polyunsaturated fats and polyphenols, may also have an inflammatory effect. So certain things can reduce.
So for the benefit of people, your polyunsaturated fats are found where?
Let me see. So polyunsaturated fats are in sunflower, corn, soybean, and flaxseed oil,
Yeah.
walnuts, fish, and canola oil, particularly as well.
Okay.
And then your polyphenols.
They're in plants, aren't they?
Yeah. Let's have a look. So those are, there's a lot of them. And some are in fruits, some are in chili peppers, vegetables, and then you've got resveratrol in red wine. So
Yeah.
red wine is, if you're going to drink wine, red wine is the way to go, because it's.
I mentioned that earlier on I've reduced all my inflammation and pain down from not being able to stand up properly, not being able to walk properly. My dogs, Cedric was walking the dogs and stuff.
Yeah.
The things I've cut out are those that you just mentioned, the polyunsaturated fats and the polyphenols. I've limited my intake of those massively.
Yeah.
And it's made a huge difference. Huge difference. So I can eat my higher fat meals because they stop me craving sugar. I'm happy with that. But yeah, cutting out those things, it was pretty much exactly that. All the seed oils. I don't eat as much fish. I still eat fish. I mean, I'm a fishmonger. I definitely eat it, but I don't eat as much.
No.
I've really limited my vegetables and my fruits. I eat more fruit than veg. So I used to be keto like years ago.
Yeah.
And that worked really well for me then, but I still crave loads of food.
Yeah.
But now that I've kind of switched it up and I have more fruits and honey and stuff.
Yeah.
But I've cut down on the variety of vegetables that I eat.
Okay.
That combination is working for me really well. It's not for everybody, of course.
No.
But when you say that those are some inflammatory foods, it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Last week I ate quite a few, I suppose, part of the capsicum, the chilies and stuff, all that sort of thing. I cooked with those for a week and my pain levels went up.
Really?
So I think they are the thing that triggered me last week when my pain went up. But yeah, it's interesting to know that that is a recognized thing.
Yeah. I've still not entirely figured out whether, my pain is triggered by any particular foods. Certainly exercise has no effect on it. You know, if I'm in a lot of pain anyway, then I can't exercise because I can barely stand some days. But since using the more traditional Ayurvedic approach, I noticed my pain levels have decreased a lot. And I don't know whether it's, you know, the combinations of foods. I mean, I'm not cooking them in any particular special way. You know, they're all going like a stew, so it's not you know, there's nothing really magnificent being done to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could just be the combinations of foods that are, you know, they might be the ones that they've said have been linked with, you know, the like those polyphenols and stuff. They might be having a positive effect. You know, I eat a lot of ginger and I eat a lot of chili.
Yeah.
And seems to suit me. I know, you know, for you that's probably the opposite, but that's just
well, that's what I mean. That's why everybody's so individual. There's no one size fits all at all.
No,
absolutely not. Yeah, it's interesting. I know bringing it back to the mental health aspect is that pain and not being able to do exercise and craving those feel good foods and everything, it's this big cycle that just brings you down eventually.
it does.
I did a course with a guy called Brian Main, and his course is about goal setting, but he looks at the science of the brain and how negative thoughts, negative emotions start breaking down connections in the brain so that you become less imaginative, less positive, and it spirals down and eventually gets to the point where it creates physical ill health, physical illness, purely from all this negativity that starts breaking down things and then linking to the gut health because everything's just going down. And then when you do manage to bring yourself up, it starts creating more connections in the brain, creating more imagination, creating more sort of ability for positivity in the brain, and people can draw themselves out of situations with an upward cycle. But switching from one to the other is near impossible for most people.
It's really hard to pull yourself out when you've got yourself into that negative spiral.
Yeah, definitely. Because that physical pain, you want something tangible to try and help it. And that's what we're taught. You should have something to fix it. And it's no wonder the world is like it is at the moment, because we have nothing to really back this up, and it's not a commonly spoke about thing.
No, but it's very true though.
Yeah,
really true.
Yeah, but that is why we're here, to bring it to light and be mostly for you to be able to use your knowledge and experience to build people that
I can.
Well, it's just when people are ready to make those changes, then it's the support to be able to make little changes at a time. So, Cool.
I don't really have anything that we've not covered really.
I don't think we had any questions through.
No.
Which is fine, because there's it's all good. I'm trying to think of something, if there was something I missed that I thought I needed to ask, but I don't think there was. I think I've just asked loads of stuff once we've come through, which is always good. But I've definitely learned some stuff, even though it's something that I'm interested in. So I tend to look up stuff anyway. But I've still learned things today, which is really helpful.
I mean, this isn't really, I mean, it might vaguely come under the wider umbrella of nutritional therapy, but this is quite a specialist area that I've, not done any specific training in, but it is definitely very interesting. And, you can see the results firsthand when you make alterations in your diet, can't you?
Definitely. Yeah, from physical to mental, definitely you can see alterations, what happens.
Yeah.
And the majority of people nowadays are not optimal.
No.
This is what everybody should be thinking about, I think.
Yeah.
And even if it's not only, even if it's just small changes, just one thing at a time,
Yeah.
it's going to, over time, it's going to improve, because we didn't get like this in 2 weeks. So
Oh,
little changes over the next year or two,
Yeah.
you should expect it to sort of like take that sort of time, I think.
definitely.
Yeah, one step at a time.
That's it. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it's been awesome chatting to you tonight. I know it was a 1-to-1 in the end.
It's all right.
But yeah, I hope if somebody listens back to this, and they definitely, I mean, I've learned stuff and I already research a lot of this. So yeah, it's been really, really helpful to me. So thank you.
Good. That's all right. What would you like me to do with this recording? Shall I put it on YouTube and then put a link in?
Yeah, link
Yeah,
it on YouTube,
yeah.
I think, because
Cool.
yeah, we can send that to people who ask for specific things.
Yeah.
And then yeah, it's available in the group.
Cool.
Awesome.
Okay.
Cool.
Right.
Cheers for that, Tracy.
All right. We'll speak soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.